In April 2015, a massive storm hits Mobile Bay during the Dauphin Island sailing race in Alabama. 8 boats capsize and 6 people don't make it back. The Dauphin Island Yacht Race is an annual sailing event in Mobile Bay, Alabama, dating back to the 1920s. The spring event is widely regarded as a celebration of the Gulf Coast maritime culture, attracting a mix of seasoned and recreational sailors, with the local community enjoying festivities on shore. The race is 18 nautical miles, starting in Upper Bay and crossing the line near Dauphin Island Bridge in the southwestern corner of the bay. The bay has an average depth of 10 feet and a surface area approximately 413 square miles. It's safeguarded from the Gulf of Mexico by protective barrier islands. The race is hosted in rotation by 3 yacht clubs: Buccaneer, Fairhope, and the Mobile Yacht Club. In 2015, Fairhope Yacht Club takes charge of coordinating the race with 125 boats and approximately 475 sailors. On the morning of the 25th of April, there's a light breeze in Mobile Bay as the sailors prepare for a race to the coast. Ron Gaston and Hannah Blalock practice trapezing on the Kyla, a 16-foot catamaran. Ron is 50 years old. He's been sailing most of his life. He secures his harness and leans back over the water. Hannah is 15 and has never set foot on a sailboat before. She's best friends with Ron's daughter, Sarah. Ron's Hobie Cat, like many of the entrants, is light enough to be hauled onto the beach by hand. Across the fleet of boats entering the race are purpose-built racing boats, grand ocean-going vessels with well-furnished cabins below deck, and smaller vessels like Ron's Hobie Cat. The crews are as diverse in their skills and experience as the boats in the race. Hours before the race is scheduled to start, the Storm Prediction Center warns of severe weather across the Gulf Coast, including strong gusts, hail, and possibly tornadoes. There's a 15% chance of winds over 50 knots, with most warnings between 1100 and 1500. Out on the water, an official radios the club's office with a request to post the scratch sheets. A scratch sheet gives the list of vessels and their handicap, which is a way for vessels of different sizes and classes to be evaluated against one another. What the office hears is "scratch the race." At 0757, as sailors gather on the bay for a 0930 start, the yacht club's website delivers a message. The race is cancelled due to the weather. The National Weather Service in Mobile issues a hazardous weather outlook followed by a critical forecast at 0808 warning of thunderstorms from the west. At 0810, the cancellation notice is removed from the website.
We had a person from NOAA here the night before giving us a briefing on the weather. If you've sailed on Mobile Bay, you know it can be beautiful one minute, it can be calm another minute, and then a thunderstorm can roll right in.
Gary Garner, the Commodore of the Fairhope Yacht Club, gives the order for the race to continue. He explains that the cancellation message issued earlier is nothing but a regrettable error. This creates some confusion on the water, and so the start of the race is delayed from 0930 to 1030. The storm front now reaches the port of Pascagoula, Mississippi, 40 miles southwest of Mobile. The storm is sweeping across Louisiana at 40 knots. At 0937, a gust of 56 knots hits the West Cameron Block 17 oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico, followed by a 72-knot gust at the West Cameron Block 110 oil rig. This weather surge is heading towards Mobile Bay. At 10:45, the boats circling on Mobile Bay prepare for the start of the race. They check their phones and instruments for weather updates. 8 boats withdraw. 117 follow the recommendation of the club's Commodore to join the race. On board the 24-foot single-hull sailboat named Razor, 17-year-old Leonard Luton, his father, and 3 friends discuss the incoming weather reports. They reach a collective conclusion that the storm will likely arrive at 16:15. That gives them enough time to execute their race plan. They'll sail down to Dauphine Island, cross the finish line, turn around, and return safely to their home port before the front hits. The safety boat carrying race officials signals the countdown. Leonard and his crew set sail, leading the field. Small catamarans cut through the water. Their light frames make them some of the fastest vessels in the race. Hannah and Ron, sailing Kyla, surge ahead. They pass a 36-foot monohull sailboat named Windnuts under the command of Ron's friend, Scott Godbold. During the first leg of the race, Hannah and Ron compete with Ron's brother, Shane Gaston, sailing an identical catamaran. Halfway through the race, Ron makes a calculated maneuver. Instead of taking the shortest route heading directly toward Dauphine Island, he decides to tack westward before ultimately turning south. This strategy pays off. At around 1400, they cross the finish line in first place. Ron's brother Shane crosses the line 1 minute later. Both Ron and Shane don't stay at Dauphine Island. Like Leonard and his crew, they calculate they can make it home safely before the weather breaks, so they set course for home. Shortly before 1500, the skies to the west begin to darken as thunderstorms approach Mobile Bay. A wall of rain obscures the western horizon. Ron says to Hannah, "We may get some rain," but he hopes they make it to the Buccaneer Yacht Club before it arrives. Hannah's holding a handheld GPS, which she checks frequently to keep track on their progress. She's amazed at the speeds they're reaching. She hangs the GPS's lanyard around her neck and tucks it into her life jacket. The storm, which started in Texas, pushes across 3 states to reach the western fringes of Mobile Bay. Along its path, it morphs into 3 distinct storm cells. Each cell carries frigid air and ice particles buoyed by a warm updraft. Ordinarily, a cold mass would simply dissipate. But as the storm passes over land, the updraft is interrupted, causing the cold air and ice particles to drop to the ground. When these ice particles fall back to Earth, they create a powerful downdraft. As they fall and the ice melts, the water evaporates, which fuels the downdraft, increasing its power. This creates a mass of cold air underneath the storm, leading to powerful gusts. The cooling effect is amplified when it meets the layer of dry air around Mobile Bay. As the temperature drops, the air becomes denser, increasing the barometric pressure and intensifying the wind gusts. Weather stations around Mobile Bay detect this temperature drop and a rise in barometric pressure. A little after 1500, hurricane-level winds and towering waves crash through Mobile Bay. Lightning fills the sky, followed by heavy rain and a sudden temperature drop. As the storm intensifies, Hannah feels the cold air hit, and then a moment of calm is shattered by hurricane-strength winds. Their boat, the Kyla, capsizes, throwing Hannah and Ron into the water. Ron grabs hold of Hannah and a rope attached to the boat. The wind catches the overturned hull and starts to push the boat away from Ron and Hannah. Ron lets go of the rope and holds onto Hannah. Around 30 miles north, Philip McNamara starts his first ever shift as a Coast Guard duty officer. Distress calls flood in. By the 3rd call, it's clear that a major event is unfolding. The Coast Guard springs into action. Authorities scramble to comprehend the scale as sailors in the bay fight for survival. Many boats are caught in the storm and crew members struggle to survive. The Coast Guard deploy multiple vessels and aircraft to search for survivors. When a boat is in distress and the skipper makes a mayday call, that call has specific information: the name of the vessel, location, the nature of the emergency, and the number of people on board. That information gives the Coast Guard a very clear mandate: rescue X number of people. When the Coast Guard contacts the race organizers to get a list of vessels and people, that list doesn't exist in full. The yacht club has a list of boats that enter the race, but they don't have a list of crew members. Without knowing how many people or how many vessels are unaccounted for, their job becomes significantly harder to manage. A Coast Guard officer starts contacting families to determine the number of missing people. Ron and Hannah battle the waves and the wind. Ron pulls his wet phone from a waterproof case. Hannah manages to direct rescuers to their location using coordinates she pulls from the GPS. Ron's brother Shane struggles through multiple capsizes before eventually reaching the shore. The search and rescue continues into the night. Teenager Leonard Luton from the yacht Razor and his crew are still missing. They've been carried out to sea in the currents. For 5 days between the 25th and 30th of April, the Coast Guard conduct 145 searches covering 7,500 square miles of ocean. The rescuers move from one capsized vessel to another, hoping to find survivors. After hours in the water, Leonard is picked up by the Coast Guard. One of his crew is found dead and another is never recovered. The yacht club faces claims totaling over $7 million in various cases. They allowed the race to proceed knowing that severe weather was going to hit the bay at some point that day. They also didn't have a full list of people in the race. Race organizers have since worked closely with the Coast Guard to improve the way they collect information for crew and boats during races. But that doesn't absolve captains and crew from ignoring the weather warnings. 8 boats did withdraw from the race, taking responsibility for the safety of their crew. 8 boats sank, 40 people were rescued, 6 sailors are dead. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more videos from this channel without any ads, please consider joining our Patreon. The link is in the description. You can join for free or select a membership with benefits ranging from ad-free videos through to early access and live Q&A calls. I look forward to meeting you there.